All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Quest for Success podcast. Today we have on a 4-time NCAA qualifier, has over 100 wins in college wrestling, wrestled for Dinuba High School, also got a full ride scholarship to Fresno State where he committed to, and then he went and transferred to the University of Wyoming. He currently owns Wright, say it again?
Wright Wrestling Academy.
Wright Wrestling Academy. That he started, and he's also are you coaching one of the high schools as well?
Nope, just sticking with Wright Wrestling
just
Academy.
Just with the private wrestling academy.
Just able to work with everybody, yeah.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. Jacob Wright, we're super excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man, thanks for joining us. So, before we get going, we like to start it off with the mental minute. Get the juices flowing, just rapid questions. Give us the best response that you could give us to the questions. So, first question, why wrestling?
It's the greatest sport on earth. Like when people describe when they're battling with emotions or a choice, they say, I'm wrestling with this, because they know it's the hardest thing to do. I mean, it's, and we talk about hard things. We know hard things, they push us, they make us better. So I believe it's the best sport because it's one of the hardest things to do. You hear UFC fighters like, man, wrestling's the hardest thing to do over boxing, jiu-jitsu, kick. They know it's the hardest martial art. Some say rather not do it because it takes too much energy. Mm-hmm. So it's the hardest thing, and I think it makes you the best person because it's the hardest thing.
Through those challenges.
Yep.
That makes perfect sense. I like that responce.
Yep.
So I didn't originally have this question on there, but I see you have a Dave Schultz shirt on. So
yep.
Who's like one guy, like as a kid, you looked up to in the wrestling world that you're like, dang, I want to be like that guy?
Oh man, growing up, probably any of the Iowa guys. Metcalf's probably number one. Brett Metcalf, just because he would just walk guys down and just, I mean, if you think about it like football, it's like he would just run the ball down your throat and just physical style. It's that way in wrestling. He would just run you down, insane pressure, great lefty high crotch. Man, I just loved it. Loved watching it. The mentality, the physicality he brought. It's like, gosh, I want to be like that.
Right.
Yeah, a wrestler is different, man.
Yeah. You guys are, man. You guys have a different mindset, man. It's like, I always say that we say, so far we've had Tim Vanny, right? He's been, and also Coach Short.
Yep, Jim
also,
Short.
He did some wrestling, and those are
Joe Soto.
Joe Soto, right? All those guys, and each, you guys are just like, all fit. Like, I don't want to call you guys crazy or anything, but man, it's like, the way that you guys handle your training, but you guys are also, and what I mean by you, the whole sport of wrestling, you like some of the most respectful people in the world. Your guys' community, man, it's amazing. Yeah, it's truly amazing. So the next question would be, what would you say is one trait that every successful wrestler needs to have a successful career?
Discipline. Has to be discipline. I mean,
discipline.
I mean, if you, like I said, if you just do whatever makes you motivated, people talk about motivation, like that runs out, man. It's like some days you're going to feel like, I mean, I'm super motivated, watch something inspirational, or, I'm doing good lately. Cool, you're going to be motivated. Right. Some days it's not going to be going good. I'm not motivated to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Right? You think of Conor McGregor, he's probably not that motivated getting off of your yacht. Mm-hmm. You don't have discipline.
Right.
You have discipline. It's a lifestyle, and that's something I even learned more every year of college. I mean, Steiner's one I really got this from, because this guy has every surgery he could possibly have, and he got up at 4:30 a.m. or 5 a.m. and was getting after it. Right. And it's because his discipline. He doesn't need to do it anymore. He's done competing, but it's a lifestyle choice. This is how I am for the rest of my life now.
Right.
It's not just for compete. This is what I know is going to breed success. So it's discipline. That's what's going to keep you going and drive you.
Yeah. So Steiner was your head coach at Fresno State,
At Fresno
right?
State, yep. And he was an Iowa guy, so respect him a lot. Love that guy.
Yeah. I'm going to go kind of on the same direction as Zach went, but I'm going to go the opposite. So what's a mistake wrestlers need to avoid to have success and also give them the, I guess, best chance to get recruited and get looks?
I love this question. Okay, so a lot of people talk about what to do and talk about not to do. A lot of people, I know they do work hard. And, a lot of people, when they go out there, I believe they do want to win. But it's not just showing up. It's not enough to just show up. So I talk about discipline. Some people will grind themselves in the grindstone, and I'm showing up, but are you getting better? Right. And that's a key thing. So a lot of people aren't, especially wrestlers, fall victim to this a lot because we just want to grind and just get everything done through work and effort. And that's great. You got to have that. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. Right. But you need to still have there's no such thing. All the best wrestlers, they're smart wrestlers. They're not dumb. you got to have a very
high IQ.
High IQ, right?
Right.
We hear about football IQ. You got to have a high wrestling IQ. You got to be able to break down, what am I going into the room today to get, how am I going to get better? I can't just go through the motions and just work hard. Yeah, I sweated and it's not a physical workout routine. This is to get better at a sport. It's still, it's an art. It's a craft. So you have to perfect your craft. Where am I not good at? Where do I need to get better? So I'd say that's the biggest, although it's a lot about discipline, it's a lot about working hard. If you're not getting better, what are we doing? You gotta be intentional. That's what I talk about, being intentional with what you're trying to do.
Yeah, you got to strategically plan your every move, right? You can't just go in there carelessly or blindlessly.
No, not just banging your head into a wall. We need to know what we're doing today, what we're trying to get out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's a big deal right there. Because, I mean, just like we were saying on our last podcast is that, you don't get time back.
No.
You know what I mean? When you're trying to chase the very top and be the best that you could be in whatever it is that you are trying to do, you ain't got no time to waste.
Yep.
So that's a good way of putting it right there,
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of, you look at different people, quotes you see, and I think John Wooden had a good one. I can't remember the exact quote, but he said, like, don't mistake, don't mistake, like, just doing for, like, achievement or something like that. It's like,
I've heard
I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something to that effect, is like, yeah, you might be showing up and going through the motions, but like you said, are you getting better? Okay? Are you actually seeing results from it?
Right. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about you. When did you first get on the mat? When did this all start for you?
Probably grew up on the mat, probably a couple of weeks after I was born. So my dad
right
was
on the mat, baby.
Yeah, my dad was a coaching at Hanford at the time, and I remember I was always there, and that was my babysitter, was high school wrestlers, just getting a hold of me, beating me up constantly, holding me down, taking me. So I was just around it all the time. So you
literally grew up in a wrestling room?
Grew up in a wrestling room. So yeah, always around, always loved it. I just looked up to the guys, whoever my dad was coaching in or whoever I was around. Yeah.
So your dad got you in there, boom.
Yep.
So tell me your relationship that you might have had with your mom. How did she support you through all this type of stuff?
So my mom was the main one, because obviously my dad would have a high school coach. My mom would be the one waking up 6 a.m., 5 a.m., driving me to weigh-ins and stuff. So nice. So really, when I was growing up, going to kids tournaments and stuff, my mom was the one taking me. Okay. And it was funny because she would know a little bit of wrestling, not a lot, but and at first she was probably annoyed by it. Man, I got to wake up early, take this kid everywhere, all over the state, and and I'm probably not the most. I'm always running late or whatever. So. Yeah, she probably didn't enjoy it a lot, but then she wanted to win probably even more than my dad. I mean, me and my dad started joking. Every year, once I got into college too, she was like even more competitive than my dad. We're like, geez, relax.
She's all in.
Yeah, she was all in. Yeah. So it's funny. She started off probably not the craziest about wrestling, but then more and more got into it.
And I'm going to take a wild guess, but they've supported you fully, right?
Yep, absolutely. They've been the best,
Biggest fans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wrestling's intense, right? Obviously. And parents could be very intense in wrestling. And you see different dynamics of parents just really pushing their kids. And some kids just take the initiative and their parents support them and they're just all about it. They're all in themselves. But what was the dynamic with your parents, your dad and your mom? Like, did they push you? Did they, did you have that kind of like self,
discipline,
not discipline. Yeah, to just like, it was you.
I always had motive. I was always just self-motivated. I always wanted it, so it was never an issue. They knew I wanted it. And then but my dad was great about, because he was like, okay, once we're back at home, I'm not coaching anymore. I'm dad. I don't want to talk about wrestling. But if you do want to ask me how to get better, I already told you. I have wrestling videos upstairs you can watch. You should go on runs. I'll take you here to go wrestle. I'll take you there. So he still gave me the choice, and I appreciated that too, because at first I wouldn't want to do that, and I would complain about my results. Like, what did I tell you? Because I'm not going to tell you anymore. I'm not going to be the dad that's going to annoy you and just, you need to do this, you need to do that.
Right. He's not going to babysit you.
Kids hate that, and that's when they get turned off by the sport. So as soon as he heard me complaining, he's like, I already told you. And I'm like, so then I would be the annoying one. All right, let's go. When are we going here? I'm going to go run, So then I would just figure it out. Okay, you're right. I got to start doing it on my own.
Yeah.
High school, I figured that out.
High school?
Yeah.
Yeah, you figured out the harder you work, the luckier you get, basically.
Yeah,
that type of thing.
Exactly.
Because you had an amazing high school career, right? At Dinuba?
Yeah. It's funny. People were always like, man, you got a lot better in college. I'm like, I think I was pretty good in high school. It's probably I got hurt a few off seasons, so I never got to go on the national scene my last year as a high school. So I was getting, obviously it got better every year, but yeah, so wasn't necessarily a blue chip because I didn't get some of those national tournaments, but high school career is pretty impressive for being at a smaller school.
Right.
You know?
So real quick though, what injuries are you talking about? What kind of injuries were you dealing with?
My high school career, I had a couple wrist breaks, hand breaks, shoulder surgeries.
How did you deal with that mentally?
Yeah, and I've had tons of injuries, and a lot of people can get down about that. Man, I'm just not. This is not for me. They can get down about it. It's just recover. I mean, honestly, those were some of the times I probably got better. My dad, we would always joke about it. He's out again for another 6 months, but they're like, some people would be like, good, he gets better when he comes back. Because I would just be, because I'm a mat rat, and I'd be all the time like, finally, he's just going to relax, and he's going to be obsessed. He wants to get back, hungry again, wants to prove. And I would just watch film all the time because I couldn't get on the mat. So I would just be watching film all day. So yeah, most of the time I would honestly come back better, but.
Right. You didn't play the whole victim card, right?
No,
you know, why
never
me? Why is this happening again? Type of stuff, right?
No, you have to deal with the cards you've been dealt, and you got to get better. Nobody cares. The opponent doesn't care. And I've wrestled plenty of kids I heard after, oh, they were hurt. I don't care. I beat them, you know? Same thing with me. If I'm going through something, people beat me, no one's going to care.
No, you're exactly right. Work harder, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to care. Work harder.
Yeah.
It's kind of, have you guys seen that Jocko video? When he's like, good.
Yep.
Like everything is like,
true. Good.
You know, you've been knocked down. It's all good. So it's kind of like that mentality.
Absolutely.
The opposite of a victim mentality is like, okay, let's find the good in, you know, having an injury and let's see what we could do to get better.
There's a silver lining in everything. You just got to be looking for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
That's cool.
So successful high career despite the injuries. What did the kind of that last year in high school look like? You're obviously going to get some offers. You're going to end up going and committing to Fresno State. So what did that last year look like in the recruiting process, and what offers did you end up having on the table?
So I had several colleges recruiting me, and I probably would have just kept getting more and more, but I ended it pretty early because Steiner recruited me. Like I said, I was an Iowa guy growing up because my dad's originally from Iowa. Look up to Iowa people all the time, college, you know. So once I had that relationship with Steiner and I was going to the RTC there, that's where you could practice with the college and stuff. So I just immediately fell in love with him and what he was about and the lifestyle that he was preaching. And so I just committed fast. So I ended a lot of the recruiting period pretty quick. So yeah, I really didn't seek out too much. Like I said, I had several schools interested, but I cut it off pretty early. And then it was just all of a sudden just about ending off this career, and the mind was like already on college. So yeah.
Go ahead.
So what was that Steiner's first, or was that the first year of the program?
That was the first.
Back?
So yeah, when he recruited me, he had the job, but there was no team. He was just recruiting. So I was the first recruit actually ever to Fresno State. It was the first one.
You were the first one ever.
First house visit, first one he committed, offered, and
with
I committed.
With the rebirth of the program.
Yeah, so I was the first one to commit. So yeah.
I want to go back in time though. I'm going to reverse it just real quick. Were you like on any like so I have a couple of kids that I'm training right now. They make the commitment and they drive all the way down to Clovis. I think it's the Throne.
Yep.
Were you on any of those type of things growing up, or was it just you and your dad?
So we would go to the Throne every once in a while. When I was in junior high, we go to Dave Schultz Elite a lot, but just to wrestle with different partners.
Just reps.
Yep, and it was just really about, from being from a small school, it was really only me and one other kid who were really at that level, elite level, and he was a couple weight classes smaller. So my dad knew, was like, this kid needs more partners and better level of training. Yeah, because you're just not going to become better being the biggest fish in the pond, right? You got to go. Got to go get challenged.
Right. So you encourage, which is probably why you're opening up your own facility. So
exactly. And it's why it's not just for one high school, and it's not just for, the big schools. I want the opportunity for everyone to come together and get what they can get out of it. Right now, for that kind of training where everyone's coming together, it's really just for my K through like 8.
Right.
And then for high school kids, since they're training with their own schools and stuff, I just do privates and stuff with them.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Nice. So moving back forward again, you are going to commit to Fresno State. Why Fresno State? Was it like that was the hometown? You wanted to be a Bulldog?
Well, I was always looking forward to moving away. Actually, I was always like naturally just independent and stuff. But like I said, just the relationship with Steiner, we liked him immediately. And then, you're getting the whole excitement. You feel the excitement around you and the whole town, like, oh, wow, this program's coming back. Everyone was excited. So top of me, loving the head coach, the excitement around it was really cool. And I was trying to envision being the first All-American with the program back. So there was just a lot of drive there. I'm like, I want to be here.
What about Steiner did you like?
Like I said, I saw it from him, his lifestyle. He was still 50-something, getting after with us, getting on the mats. And I'm like, geez, this guy's an animal. I'm like, he has no reason to train this hard. A lot of head coaches like that, they'll let the assistants take care of that, the physical, manual labor, and this guy just got after him. Like, man, he really lives what he's preaching. That's what I try to do with my kids still, man. A lot of people, they try to do as I say,
right.
Not as you do, but he lives it. So it's like, gosh, it just motivates you, and you see what needs to get done,
Yeah.
So what kind of coaching philosophy are you trying to instill into your athletes that are coming to you? What is it that you are trying to accomplish?
It's funny, a lot of we talked about that first mental minute, right? Just a lot of discipline. At the same time, with discipline and effort and all that stuff's great, but that's like your bottom. That should be a given. That's like prerequisite. We got to have that. If we don't have that, we're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But that's not going to get you where you still got to be intentional. We still got to protect our craft. We still got to be very, like I said, high wrestling IQ. We got to figure out how to get better.
Good intentions.
So, like I said, we can't just bang our head into a wall. We got to get better.
So describe to us, right, that you get that K through 8th. Tell us about practice. How does it go?
So we usually start with warm up, and I try to build these because I see this. That's why I do a lot of stuff. I tell people I just steal a lot of the best stuff I see around. One of the things I see with a lot of these different countries, they do a lot of different just acrobats, and especially with the younger kids, they're doing a lot of tumbling and stuff. And you hear all the time, gymnastics is great. When kids first start off learning how to move their body. So I include a lot of tumbling in our warm up.
Oh, really?
And I challenge these kids, and they nowhere near being able to do round off backflip or anything of that sort, but I get them going, do a round off backward roll. Okay, nice. Do this, do that. Try a front handspring. If you can't do it, do a head spring. If you can't get there. We're every day I challenge them. Okay, just do a forward roll for now. Next week you're gonna try that handspring. So we start with that, and they like it.
You grow from there. Yeah.
Yep. So we're getting some of that athleticism, some of those intangible stuff that's hard to teach later on.
Right.
Because that's just so good to be able to know how to move your body. And then we have our everyday drills, I call them. So that's our stuff. That's our bread and butter.
Right.
Some of our stuff that we're gonna do every day, and then I always pick 2 to 3 areas to really work on. But it's a slower pace. Like I said, it's not really about a lot of kids. I know a lot of clubs who they love having a lot of kids in the club, and it's all about the live. And it is the quickest way to get better for kids is just to compete,
right,
and get a bunch of matches and then grind them down, and you're going to see the best rise to the top, and you're going to have like 20 kids who are really good. But then they're going to plateau because these kids have never gotten better. So for our practice, like I said, we have our everyday drills, 2 to 3 new techniques. Live is probably only last 10 minutes of practice. I'm probably only wrestle 8 of that. I mean, a lot of that's I'm talking and we're going back, hey, this is where we're messing up. So I'm really in no rush to, I know these parents want to win and they're investing money, but I'm like,
right,
guys, we got to play a long game. These kids, I'm not trying to squeeze all the juice out of them and make them, kindergarten state champs or national champs. I don't care. I really don't care about that. They can lose. That's what's frustrating. I'm like, I know it feels like I'm not trying to make your kids lose. It's just, they need to get better. And right now it may feel like, geez, you don't care about winning right now. It's like, not really. We're trying to get better long-term, not right now.
Yeah. Like you said, playing the long game.
Yeah. And so some things that we're doing right now, it's like, we're not going to see results, long-term, but, or short-term, but long-term we are. And like I said, I could teach a bunch of junk moves and stuff that's going to win.
Look all cool and stuff like that.
It's like, dude, baseline basics, that stuff wins. That's going to work when you're in college. Yeah, right. You hear that all the time. And that's why I don't say, this is going to be high level, this is going to be easy basic stuff, because I'm already shaping what they're going to think about that technique, right?
Right.
I just teach, this is what we're teaching today, because really the basics are high level. That stuff is really hard. People always say in sports, this is just the basics are hard. The best guys, the NBA players, they do the basics better than anybody.
Right.
Anybody.
Exactly.
So I get them to understand that, man. But like I said, I don't tell them this is basics, but that's really what I'm trying to get them to do.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's super. I like how you said just having like tumbling and those gymnastics involved into your practice, because that's going to help them not just become better wrestlers, but better athletes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the best wrestlers they're good athletes.
Yep.
They were good athletes in high school, and you look at the Kyle Snyders, you look at all these guys, they're just really good athletes.
Yep.
And they know how to move. They know how to do the little things right.
Yep.
Talking about not just the physical aspect, but how do you kind of instill and teach these kids mentally? Because we talked earlier about you have to be a very intelligent wrestler. You have to have an IQ and be able to, be 2 steps ahead of your opponent all the time. So what's the kind of mental aspect that you're able to kind of teach and instill into these kids to allow them to make those moves and mentally? Yeah.
So we do a lot of, have a lot of that stuff ingrained in the practice. So we do a lot of, when we're learning new techniques, when I'm teaching it, I do a call and response a lot. And I'm like, if you can't even say what I just told you, I doubt you can go and magically do it. You can't even just say, I just said, cross face and get your hand on the elbow. Where am I putting the hand on? Now I'll go elbow. So, right. And if someone doesn't say it, I'm like, what is it? You know, that's why. So I'm sure they're getting all the details. And even if they say it, they're going to go out there and forget it. I already know that. But like I said, that's the first step. Be able to at least repeat it. So I know you're engaged, you're locked in, you're focused. So you're not lost when you go out there. And then we do a lot of things by yourself too. I'm like, that's big in wrestling. Like if you can't do this on your own, like in shadow wrestling, just take a shot by yourself. How are you going to do it with another person?
Right.
You're not, right?
Right.
So those fundamentals aren't naturally just going to fix itself because you're shooting on a person now.
Mm-hmm.
So first it's right. First with the speech, they're doing callbacks, and then it's, if they can't get it down with a partner, I go, hey, do it by yourself real quick. Let me see what it looks like. See, you already know. And they already know. And then we fix it from there. Okay, let's go back with the partner. You got it down. So a lot of that stuff seems technical, but it's actually mental.
Right.
You know, making sure they're focused. And,
Yep.
and then if these kids are, and I'm like, hey, you're confident. And it's about confidence. When we talk about, we do everything right here. I don't let you guys get away with a bad rep. Mm-hmm. We're locked in. We're focused. You be confident because of your trainings. We're doing it right here.
Right. You're building good habits.
Yeah, you're building. Be confident in your training. And that's where the mental stuff comes in. You should be confident because you're doing everything right.
It's all in preparation.
Yep.
Exactly. So you talked about the tumbling, okay, and how that benefits a wrestler, right?
Yep.
You're sitting in my gym. Were you a weight room guy? Did you do a lot of weight room and lifting and stuff like that?
Weights, yep.
Well, tell us about that. What was your training like in high school and then in college and things and leading up into that?
Yeah. So luckily my uncle was a bodybuilder, but it's funny, like he still know not to train. Obviously I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder.
Right.
So, but he would train me a lot when I was in high school. We still had a good weight room in high school. I would get lifting there a lot. We had weightlifting classes, but I always knew wrestling is not going to magically make you a better wrestler. It's not. That's not what it's for. It's just to enhance yourself as a, it's part of it is like we talk about confidence in your training. I am confident in myself. Like I don't want you to go out there and look at a kid who's he's stacked, he's built, and you're not, now you're scared to wrestle.
Right.
Like,
you got fear.
You should have that confidence too. You should be in the weight room. So when you see that, I lift too.
Right.
I'm fine. So this part of it's a big confidence thing. It gives kids a lot of confidence. Weightlifting
It does.
And then I think it is great for injury prevention, and it does in those fundamental positions when I'm in a shot and I'm building a good posture. That's all like you're just weightlifting good form. My chest is up, my head, all those little things. You're building that with resistance in a weight room. So no, it doesn't make me better in my sport, but just supplements a lot of good things in there.
That's perfect. I mean, I'm glad you said that, you know, because I never claim to tell people that this is going to make you better at your sport. Your sport is going to make you better at your sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is just going to enhance the longevity of it. So, man, that's awesome that you said. That's good. That's good. And it's good that you're sharing that too, as now a gym owner and, somebody who's been there, done that. So that's cool.
Yeah. When you step into, I kind of want to go back to you a little bit, back to your college stuff. When you go from high school to college, you're going to be wrestling some of the guys you probably wrestled since California is such a stacked, wrestling, has such a stacked wrestling pedigree.
Yep.
But fly in my face. When you step on the campus at Fresno State, okay, what is it like? Because now you got guys from all over the country. You got some guys, best guys in the country from California or state of California and everywhere else.
Yeah.
What's that kind of level like when you step into the room?
Yeah. So
did it raise a little bit?
So it probably helped me and hurt me in some ways. So like I said, with it being a new program, we didn't have a lot of the older guys, and that's really what you hear stories. Guys go into a program that, man, I couldn't even get a takedown. I had no success at first. These guys are so tough. I had to raise my competition level. Like there was a couple of good guys there, but we didn't have that returning All-American or even NCAA qualifier or anything. Like it was a new program. So luckily, we did have some RTC members, so guys that were trying to train for the Olympics. So I did have some really good guys. My coaches were really good. Jason Chambers was an NCAA finalist, stud. So I would get beat up definitely still by some of those guys. But as far as guys on the actual team, like we're all kind of at the same level, either freshmen or some of them are transfers, still redshirt freshmen. So I was at their kind of level basically, but that kind of helped me because I saw their accolades. I'm like, geez, I was never a state champ. This guy was a multiple time state champ. This guy won this national tournament. This guy did this. And I'm like, I'm right there with them. Like these guys don't even train hard. So, so that's why I say it was really good for me, really bad for me. Cause maybe I didn't get those licks in from, some of those better guys who were returners and veterans. But I did see a lot of guys who were same recruiting class and were really good on paper, maybe way bigger blue chips than me, way higher on the recruiting board, but I was just outworking them, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be better than these guys just off of work ethic alone.
So coming from Dinuba, a small little town, right? Going to Fresno, it really wasn't that big of a transition though, right? Because I mean, you were exposing yourself everywhere up and down the state, right? So maybe probably even out of the state.
Yeah.
So then going to Fresno State, that was just like, all right, no big deal, right?
Yeah, not really huge jump in anything culture shock wise or anything of that sort. So yeah, it was a great transition. It was a great place for me to start off.
What was it like? I mean, you talked about you were the first recruit, new program. Did Steiner do a pretty good job of like just locking in? Because of being a new program, building it, sometimes it could be a just culture shock for everyone, trying to figure things out. He had obviously, been at the biggest programs in the country. Yeah. So how was that kind of first year like and starting that new program?
He was an amazing coach, and he made no excuses and he would probably people would probably laugh at him when they told him the goals that he was trying to accomplish. He was like, yeah, we want to be a top 10 team. We're going to shock Illinois our first duel. And he was just saying crazy things like, this guy's crazy.
Starts at the top, baby.
But he had those expectations and he lived it. And you're like, geez, this guy's a leader, man. And everyone wanted to do it. And what do you know? I mean, the team was top 5 in the Big 12. So, I mean, it's really hard to do that. The conference gets tough for every year in wrestling. Yeah. He's getting multiple guys on the podium, NCAAs. Like there's new programs that came out. They can't accomplish what he accomplished. Yeah. It's insane what he did. The amount of qualifiers he'd get, 2-3 All-Americans. I mean, he did really amazing there for the lack of support from administration he had, and overall with what he had, I mean, it was insane. But he's a great leader, man.
That was going to be my next question. How did you take it when you found out that Fresno State was losing the program?
Oh, devastated, because when I was a kid, it got cut, and I was like, well, that won't ever be an option. So it's like, are you kidding me? So now it's really sad. Some bad leadership there. Like I said, when things get tough, they blamed it on COVID or whatever, but really dumb. I don't think they had the money to bring it back in the first place. It was a dumb situation. But yeah, when things get tough, you don't cut things, you figure it out. So I just think poor leadership and unfortunate,
Right.
So that was your sophomore year or the end of your freshman year when
that was going into my redshirt junior. So yeah, I just finished my sophomore season. Yeah. So it would have been my third year starting. And so when I found out the program was cut, I'm like, they told us they could stick around and for that season, it'll be cut the year after. But I'm like, I'm transferred. I know I'm going to be at another school. I need to get there. I need to get with the program.
No time to waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was that kind of process like? They told you could stay if you wanted to. One more year. Yeah. You're obviously going to take the road to like, hey, I want to make a change. I want to be on probably a program that's going to be there for the long haul. That's going to be established. Yeah. So what was that process like of seeking out where you're going to go next?
It was different because this time I kind of took my time. Because I'm like, man, and it was a weird time because I couldn't even go visit these schools. Because of COVID. Yeah. And then so basically I almost limited my recruit. And some schools didn't even know that I was trying to transfer so fast. They're okay for next year. They didn't kind of recheck and they kind of didn't reach
So you weren't on the radar.
Yeah. So but some other schools were really interested and there was some troubles with, I was like, I want to go in and wrestle right away. And some schools couldn't get me eligible right there at the spring semester. So a lot of that stuff going on, but basically I was only looking at the Big 12 because those were the most schools I already visited because I wrestled against them. I was like, I already seen their facility. I know what they got going on. I know the coaches. So those were really the only schools I was looking at, like I said, because I was familiar with them. So that's kind of how that process went.
How was it? Like now you're leaving the state. Your parents.
Scary. Yeah.
Scary. What advice would you give to an athlete that is possibly going to be leaving California to go venture off into a different program outside the state? What advice would you give them and how they can transition into that a little bit smoother?
I mean, just being honest with yourself. I mean, and using the resources probably around you and just really leaning on your teammates and your coaches. But I mean, for the most part, you just got to be a big boy. It's hard to say, but you just got to be. Yeah. It's tough, but the bottom line is you got to be a big boy, suck it up, and you have goals, and that's bigger than anything else. This is what's important in my life. There is no turning back. It's just that decision, and it's hard, but you got a goal. You got goals to accomplish. So
put on those big boy pants.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of that. We could say all this stuff, but the bottom line is you got to be a big boy. Yeah.
Yeah. Time to grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
So you said you got to look at all these facilities when you were at Fresno State, and you're gonna eventually make the choice to go to the University of Wyoming. Why Wyoming?
So a couple things. It kind of shocked me with. Because you probably just don't assume I mean, Wyoming, you probably don't assume anything out of there, you know. But I saw some of their facilities, and it was impressive. They have an impressive wrestling room. They have weight training room in the wrestling room. They have great locker room and great facilities. And then even the Olympic training weight room that's available. They have high altitude performance. They've shown me on a Zoom all the high altitude performance center where they have altitude chamber. They just have everything. I mean, it's only one university in that state. There's no other. So all the money goes to that university.
Yeah.
So their facilities are on par with any of these big schools.
Yeah.
So they have the facilities there. They have the support. And then I also looked at the coaching staff there. They built, I mean, a great program branch, built consistently good. And I think that's important, not just being able to recruit good guys and they just go out there and perform. He recruited a lot of guys who were that kind of diamonds in the rough. They weren't really blue chippers and accomplished some great things, you know, Bryce Meredith and Branson Ashworth, Archie Cullen, who's fighter now. But they were guys I saw that I never even heard of before, and they were competing in the NCAA tournament. I'm like, geez, how is this coach? But I was always impressed. They top 15 team in 2015 or something like that. I mean, 18. Montori Bridge, another one. But he had a lot of these guys that I could tell they developed there. And that's just, you could tell that's from coaching. A lot of credit to those guys. Those guys are studs and who were committed, like I said, have all the intangibles we talked about. But that's also a lot of coaching.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Who was the head coach there?
Mark Branch.
And what was his background?
So from Oklahoma State, wrestling under John Smith. He was a 4-time NCAA finalist. I think he won it twice. His story's pretty cool. He started off, he was not even seeded. I think he had a losing record going to the NCAA tournament, and he wins it as a true freshman.
Whew.
Really cool story.
Damn.
So he'd always tell us out in the postseason that story. Geez, you're always inspired. He's like, you're 0-0 in the postseason. Nothing you did matters. He's like, this guy coming here. And that's why he's another guy, great leader, great person.
Yeah. So now, you know, going through it all, looking back at it now, would you have done anything a little bit different?
No regrets, man.
None at all.
And I didn't achieve my goals, and I'm upfront about that. I mean, still, I have nightmares about that NCAA tournament, man. I've beaten guys that were, I've beaten guys in the or placing pretty high. It was close matches with guys in the finals.
Because you upset Justin Thomas, right? Who was seeded 10th in your first year at Wyoming?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Beat guys Will Lewan, beat guys like Peyton Robb, beat guys, really good guys my weight, and it was just couldn't get that tournament together. And but I'm like, man, even if I won, would my life be that different? No, probably not. Still be doing the same thing I'm doing right now.
Right.
So we can pretend I'd probably be happier for 3 more months. That's probably all that would happen, and that would end. I still got to get on with my life. There's life after wrestling.
Yeah.
I can be upset about it and be mad at myself or mad at people or whatever. I got to live with that. But bottom line is I got to learn from it. So I've learned from it, and now I'm bringing that to coaching. I know where I made mistakes.
Yep.
So
that's a great way of putting it. Yeah. You only win and learn.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly. So that's really cool, man. When you're talking to these kids now as a mentor and a coach, right? When you see kids, right? We talked about it already a little bit early in the beginning, and they're getting a little discouraged. Maybe they can't figure out the move, or they're getting their ass beat on the mat, from whoever is across from them and things like that. What type of encouragement do you give them at that time in that moment? What do you tell them? How do you help them get through something like that?
I mean, that one's tough, man, but it's really just, we got to focus on, like I said, win and learn. You can't focus on losing, man. I mean, even results overall, we can't focus on results, like I said, because even if I would have won at NCAA tournament, would have placed, gone stand, been happy. Like I said, what's next? What if I was coming back next? You still have to get better. At the end of the day, that's all I always talk about, these kids' tournaments. I'm like, I don't care if you pin everyone's all the way through. I'll go find something for you to get better at. You still have to get better, because the next match is the most important match.
Exactly.
So you can't have that winning hangover. You can't be stuck on losing.
Never high, never low.
Right. You just have to focus on getting better. And that's why I was on another podcast and I was talking about it. And it's like, if you're focused on results, you're going to be shocked when you face that person who's just obsessed with the sport, loves it, just loves the process of getting better. And you're going to face something that you've never faced in your life. Like, where did that guy come from? But there's people out there obsessed with their sport, dedicate hours, and they just love it and they live it. And I think that's totally different than someone who's just driven by results.
Yeah.
On the other aspect, we talked about your parents at the beginning of the show. As a coach now, you've competed at the highest levels in college. You've seen it. Now you're training these young kids, right? Also, obviously, wrestling's a very involved sport with parents because you're going on the weekends, you're traveling all up and down the state. Some kids are traveling all over the country. So the parents are always there for the most part with these kids. So what advice would you give to parents, to best support their kid and give their kid the best chance to succeed?
That's a great question, because wrestling is, if you ever know someone that's wrestled or fought, because wrestling's still a fight at the end of the day, it really feels like that. It's your kid against someone else's kid, and it's the most emotionally involved sport ever.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
Like, right? If you ever seen your friend fight or someone you remotely kind of know, you're just your heartbeat's going. You're just so invested. So it's hard, because I've met parents who just love the sport and they want their kid to win so bad, and they think that's support, and it's great. It's great wanting of course, we all want our kid to win. Mm-hmm. But you can't want this for your kid.
Right.
It's their sport. You got to let it be their thing. They got to want it. At the end of the day, it's them that's got to train. It's them that's got to lift. Them they got to run. They got to do that. They have to win. It's up to them. So all you can really do is just, hey, I support you. You got to just be mom and dad and love you no matter what. Just support them.
Just trust it as much as you want them to trust the process.
It's such a hard thing though, because I'm saying that, but I'm probably gonna be a crazy wrestling dad. But I know how my emotions are. But
right.
You just can't let your emotions get the best of you. Like I said, you got to let it be their thing.
Right.
You're completely right, because if the kid doesn't love wrestling and they're not into it, eventually, the parents could push the kid to a certain point.
Yep.
But to have success in high school and to go to the college level, like at some point the kids got to want it and take the initiative themselves.
And I saw that a lot. And that was really common in wrestling, because wrestling is a sport that's very family-oriented sports. So a lot of people get in wrestling because, my dad wrestled, my uncle wrestled. So a lot of people get in it for those reasons. And then next time they get into college, they're not around to push me. They're not around to take me here. And so it's like, what do I do? Yeah, they just don't have that accountability and self-motivation or discipline at all.
Goes back to what you said. It's time to grow up.
Yeah.
Put the big boy pants on.
Yeah.
Okay, again, you're in my gym. I'm going to ask this question just like I asked everybody else. What was your take on nutrition? Did you have a very strict nutrition in high school and in college, and then as you continue to advance, or did you kind of just eat whatever you wanted and then it just went onto the mat?
I mean, high school, probably more of that. I'd probably just be in a calorie deficit just to make the weight, but I probably wouldn't care. I mean, I would try, especially starting toward my junior, senior year, I would try to start eating healthier. But every year of college, I started perfecting it a little bit more.
Right.
I realized what food feels good when I put in, what I need to eat at this time. But man, nutrition's so important. And it's another thing. Is it going to make you wrestle better? Is it going to give you magical powers? No. Because I've seen kids who eat garbage. That doesn't mean to do this.
Yeah.
But I've seen kids eat garbage, but they perform. Because at the end of the day, you got to execute.
Right.
But 100% you are going to feel better. And you don't want any doubt in your mind.
Right.
I didn't do anything wrong. I did everything right. So that's really what the nutrition's about. It's another thing that should give you confidence. You did everything right. So yeah, nutrition's so important. It's something I always played with, and I realized that I feel better doing this and all that.
What's your whole take on extreme weight cuts and things like that?
It's dumb. Especially in sports you have to perform. In wrestling, the rule. I mean, I'm so mad because college, of course, once I get down with wrestling, they changed the rule. But during the college season, we do duels, and there was only 1 hour weigh-in. So after you weigh in, you had 1 hour to wrestle after you weighed in.
Right.
You could not mess around with that. You would be hurting if you cutting too much weight. Now it's 2 hours, but people think that hour's not that much, but it's a lot.
It's a big difference. It's a huge deal.
I mean, even if you weren't cutting weight, to have the time to use the restroom, eat food, get the warm up in, get what you need, lock in.
Not be in a rush.
Yeah, not be in a rush. I mean, imagine that you get there 1 hour and you got to go. So you had weigh-ins and all this groom check stuff. So yeah, it's short. So you can't mess around with weight cutting. It just can't be a factor. I do believe there is a weight class that is the right weight class for you. I don't believe in just being big just to be big.
Right.
I think you're seeing it now in football. There's a lot of smaller, wider receivers, especially the skill positions. They used to just be big to be big. I'm like, why? You can't move. Like, well, it's not going to help you all of a sudden play faster, be more explosive.
Right.
So I'm just not into, the weight's going to make you perform any different.
Right.
It should be something that's not even an effect on your performance. Yeah.
So when did you find your weight? What? Okay, tell everybody what was your wrestling weight
in college. 157,
and in high school,
I went 120, 132, 138, 145.
Okay, so you jumped up from there to there, and is that just you growing into your body?
Oh yeah, it's of course growing. And I was always I would never say I don't ever, and I hate when people say, oh, I cut weight. It's like you make weight. Because you should never cut weight. You make weight. You have to be this on a certain day.
Right.
You have to just make it. You shouldn't be cutting weight. I mean, that's horrible to, like I said, that means you're just
But you see it all the time.
body.
I mean, it's still going to happen, right? And usually, what would you say it is? Because of lack of knowledge, lack of trust? What is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, lack of knowledge, and people think that for whatever reason, they're going to be stronger or better at a certain weight. But like I said, then you got to perform. And there are some people that do it and do it effectively.
Without the risk of,
Yeah, and there's ways to do it right, but at the end of the day, man, you really have to, this is a performance sport. And if you're not, and I talked about already with the wrestling IQ stuff, if your brain's not working and you're not, you can't play around with that stuff.
If you're in a deficit, you're going to be foggy.
And even the practices, that's when I really learned. I learned this a lot from Steiner. He's like, you need to have the energy in practices. He's like, I don't want people treating my practices like fat camp. He's like, I'm not in charge. I'm not your weight loss coach. And that really taught me. I'm like, what? And like some days I'm like, geez, I hardly got a sweat in this practice. And I'd be all mad. And I'm like, he's like, this isn't a weight loss practice. This is a get better practice.
Right.
Kind of changing my mindset. He's like, that's up to you. You're training. You need to be disciplined, be at the weight. You need to be. So learn that a lot because a lot of people treat wrestling like that. Their practices are just to get a sweat. And it's like, no, it's to get better,
Yeah. And sometimes, at the high school level, coaches' hands are tied behind it because, we can't, we would like to expect the kids to come in shape.
Yep.
But that's just not the reality of it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so sometimes, their hands are a little bit tied. But to your point, I totally get it. I totally understand.
So what do you think, and I guess I could ask you the same question, how did you best manage the, weight throughout high school and into college? And what, advice would you give to kids in high school to best manage weight, to stay healthy and not kind of push yourself too hard?
Yeah. So really, you kind of need to, and people I see it, they balloon up and then it's like, man, you got to live at the weight that you're competing at. And that's what I learned this from Steiner too. He's like, you're wrestling at 157. Why are you weighing, 170, whatever? He's like, because when you get off the scale, you're not weighing 170. You're weighing 163 max, 64 max. He's like, so that's where you should kind of live at. And you say, I'm a big sweater. I lose 4 or 5 pounds. So then after practice, that's kind of what I weigh. I'm already at my weight. So you want to get to that point. And I would struggle with that. I mean, I probably in the last couple of years probably should have went 65s, but for lineup reasons and for reasons I just thought I could beat a lot of the guys the way I had to make sacrifices and be at that weight. And that's totally a thing too. People, they can't go whatever weight in wrestling because it's like it's positions. You got to go where best for their team or it's where's your best opportunity to start. So there's some of that going on. But ideally, if you can live at the weight you're actually going to compete at, that's where you're competing. So why are you at any other weight?
Make it a lifestyle.
Yep.
Exactly. Because we see this in like MMA. It's like such a big topic all the time, and there's new rules coming in and out all the time. But some of those gaps from like in like the UFC, for example, you have like go from 55 to 70. That's 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Like so there should be a 65
There
class.
should be a definitely 65 class. 100%. Especially that's the average weight of like a male too. Like
because I mean, some of those, like you got a 185 guy, when they're walking in, they're weighing over 205 pounds. And then you got guys like getting done and in between training camps blowing up. It's like,
it's crazy.
That's weird. That's wild.
Yeah.
So student athlete, that's what you were, right? We're talking a lot of the athlete right now.
Yep.
You weren't no strength. I mean, you handled the books very well, right? 4.0 in high school. Like you were well committed into the books.
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to give some advice as to how you balance the sport and school for student athletes.
Yeah.
How did you do both?
I didn't treat them like they were two different things. Like I said, I'm not just trying to be a good wrestler or whatever. Like I said, I always kept that in mind. Like at some point wrestling's over. But it's really just like that stereotypical, phrase you hear, how you do anything is how you do everything. It's so true. I mean, you can't just, and that's why I see it from guys, and I can tell, I see talent all the time and they don't work that hard or they don't try that hard in school. And I don't care about it. It's not a big deal. It's like, it is a big deal. Everything's a big deal.
Right.
You write your names on it, you stamp it. That's evidence of your work. And you're not going to let it be a reflection of you.
Right.
Like, so I just take pride in anything I do. And if I'm not proud of it, I mean, it disgusts me. I mean, internally, it's got to bug you.
So you took your philosophy to the mat, to the books.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Yep.
You didn't treat them any differently.
No, and I'm competitive. I'm still competitive. I mean, you have these smart kids and they don't do anything. I'm like, I'm tougher than these kids, you know? I just think they don't have that edge like me, you know?
Right.
And it's being a competitor, bringing that exactly to the school. And then like, these guys don't have that. Like, and you got to take that eventually business role. Like, I'm going to run over these guys because of my work. So it's just being a competitor and having those expectations for yourself.
Right.
So you won over 100 matches in wrestling, right? 100 wins in NCAA. How did you deal with both winning and losing? Because we talk about, not ever getting too high, not getting too low.
Yep.
But you're talking about you're a competitor, right? And no competitor likes to lose.
Yeah.
But how did you take winning and losing, and what did you do after that to, not get too high or too low?
Yeah. Typically a lot of film study. I mean, like I said, you got to learn from it. You got to learn from why you lost. But I mean, I wish I would have done more of this, is just realize why I won too, and just look at both sides. Because like I said, you can't be too high or too low. You can't go away. All right, everything. And that's what winning sometimes is not good for you. Because you could be doing a lot of things that you're not going to look at your performance when you win. You'll be like, I'm doing everything right. I won.
Right.
But you got to go look at that. Like, what was I doing good? Where can I still improve? Like, I'd probably just win because I was better than that guy. But a better opponent is going to take advantage of this position. This is where I need to do better here. So there's still a lot you can learn off a win. Same thing in loss. You can be down yourself. Man, I suck. And there's probably some things you're doing good in there. Like, you got to watch it. You got to really evaluate it from an outsider perspective, and not just that bottom line, did I win or lose?
Right.
Because there's some lot in there. There's a whole story to it,
There's no success without failure.
Yep.
Period. You have to lose. You need to lose.
Yep.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, a lot of times you are going to learn more from those failures. So we always talk about there's no losses, just lessons, right? No losses, just lessons. So
absolutely.
That's important.
Yeah. So you are now, I mean, you literally just came from giving a lesson and you ran right over here. You're going, you're learning something new. Right.
Yep.
And we're talking about how you treat everything more or less the same, just from your wrestling career right into the books. Now, obviously, you're going into the business, right?
Yep.
You're learning it. You're trying to excel in it, and you're trying to make sure that you perfect it the best way that you physically and possibly can.
Yep.
Okay. So let me ask you this: if you're trying to find a location for your facility to be your own, right? So once that facility is being made, where you're looking at it for Visalia, the Visalia location, right? And in the beginning of the podcast, you're talking about how it's kind of in the middle, right? You got Fresno, you got Hanford, you got the Visalia, you got Tulare, and all these things, right? So being who you are, from everything that you've gone through, what makes, because remember, this is new, right?
Yeah.
Being a business, this is completely, you can have the same attitude, but it's a whole different, it's not school. It's
absolutely.
Not. So are you a little nervous about it? Are you a little?
Yes and no. Like I said, I'm taking that same approach, but also, like I said, I know it's a different animal, and I need to go.
A whole different beast.
I need to go at the rate that I need to go. Like I said, I'm not going to necessarily go on this big financial risk and get a building when I don't have the numbers. I have, these financial goals and these numbers, and you hit before I take these next steps. So I take the same approach. I mean, I wouldn't put a kid who's just starting off wrestling and go put him in the world championship.
Right.
You don't do that. You're not ready for that.
Right.
So I'm taking the steps because this is a new bit. It's not just me, it's the entity. It's the whole thing as a whole, the kids that are in it, the financial part of it. So, I'm going
calculated risk. Is what you're doing.
Calculated risk. And I know part of business is taking a risk when everyone thinks you are dumb. That is a thing. But being realistic and taking the steps that are necessary.
Right. Yeah. So I guess what my question was, I mean, because like you said, businesses, you could have the same mindset, you can have the same approach, right?
Yep.
But it's still something new.
Yep.
So basically, what's the biggest take though that you're getting from this, from starting something new? That was going to be my question. You know what I mean? Because wrestling, it wasn't new. You were born on the mat.
Yep.
So what's the biggest thing that you're learning through this process? Of opening up this facility, of it just being so new to you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And after that question, why should, and I guess he kind of already answered it in the beginning, but if I was to bring my son to you, what is it, again, other than the fact that you're going to take it a little bit slower for my kid, right? What is it if a parent is listening and they're trying to make a decision on where they want their kid to be thrown or Jacob's? What's the difference?
One, I'm fresh off the college scene. I mean, that's huge. I'm up to date with the latest technique and just philosophies towards wrestling. best shape of my life. I'm just got off competing. So, and I'm on the mat with these kids.
Right. Your hands on.
Yep. And like I said, I'm not saying just do as I say, not as I do. I'm doing it with you.
Right.
So, I mean, they have a role model. I mean, that's huge. Like I said, I'm on the mat with them. I'm taking it slow. I've been with high level wrestlers. I've been to Olympic Training Center. Been around some of the best coaches. And I'm bringing all that to these kids. And that's pretty unique. And that's what when I was wondering what I should do, should I just go the stereotypical mold and just go into high school coaching and just stick with them? Like, I think I have so much more to offer than just getting one that's already been done. People have already done that. Yeah. And I've always thought bigger than whatever I'm doing and tried to evolve the sport. And that's what grows the sport, when you do more than just what's been done. So I'm like, what is this area missing? And, a lot of these areas like Minnesota has Pinnacle, Young Guns in Pennsylvania, they have these huge clubs. And on top of that, they also have regional training centers, the college nearby. Like I said, we lost Fresno State, so they don't have that anymore. So they have no high level training around them. So I'm like, there's a gap that's got to be filled here. And I'm like, I think I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I know I am, with my knowledge, the lifestyle I live, and I think just the location of it is great. Some people, why aren't you going to Fresno? Why don't you go to Clovis? And I'm like, they got a dethroned. These people have places. What's going to be great about where I'm Visalia, like I said, right in the middle. Right. We're all going to meet up, and this is what this area needs. Like I said, iron sharpens iron. We're going to pull all these small towns, and then you're going to get Fresno and Bakersfield. They're both an hour from Visalia, and that's where, because those schools have the best wrestling in the area, Clovis and Bakersfield. So I just see it as just a great hub for these wrestlers to come together. And,
blending them all together, making it a hybrid. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, I love how, obviously, your intelligence of being able to recognize, like, okay, there's a need for this, right? Like, that's number one. There's a need for it. There's a want for it, and there's a business for it. And it sounds like you're the guy to do it. So I'm like super excited to see what you're gonna do. And you're right. I mean, you're up to date. I think that's so important. You're up to date on the latest wrestling technique, because it's always evolving. It's always changing, right?
Absolutely.
And so, like, that's priceless, because yes, you got guys that have been around the sport for 20, 30 years, but you're fresh out, man. And you've learned under some of the best in the world, with Steiner and at Wyoming. So, like, that's priceless.
Yeah. That it really is. You see a problem and you got a solution. That's exactly. So that's, speaking about problems, I always like asking this question. And now that you bring it up, like, you're still young. You literally just left the game. I always like asking this question, and did you have any effect with social media? Because kids, man, they're distracted by it, and it's become more of a problem than a blessing for most. Did you have any of that type of issues with you, going through the scene and with your wrestling career or anything? Or it was just like, I have a social media, but it's whatever?
Yeah, I had social media. I'm really not into it. I don't ever really post that much. I'll post to keep my family updated stuff, or whatever. I know people like that. I have a lot of family in different states and stuff. So it is cool. And the best things about social media are really cool. I get to post what's going on in my life, and people get to see that, and I get to share experience with them. That's the cool part.
Never a distraction.
Yeah, and the negative part, but you don't want to get too focused. I mean, you got to, at the end of the day, you have a job to do. You're focused on competing. You got to focus, and sometimes you can be looking at what other programs are doing, what other programs have, and that's where it can be a distraction. You got to. You got
worrying about somebody else.
Yeah, it's like you got to focus on what you're doing. So I try to never let it be a distraction. I don't think it ever was. If I had to advise kids, it's just it's not. It shouldn't be a distraction.
Pick and choose your time wisely.
But I mean, use it for what it's good for. And I mean, I know with the new NLI stuff, and I'm like, I was never into that stuff. And to me, I don't think that's a good NLI deal. You have to spend. I know people have those personalities, but I don't think it's a cool NLI deals where I got to post and vlog 40 times a day, and now I'm worried about my post and all this stuff to make a couple $100. Like, there's easier ways to make money. You need to focus on your sport, I think. In my opinion, the best NLI opportunities are the ones where you don't have to do much and you get paid.
So we talked about your new training business. What's like the deep, I guess, idea and vision and goal that I guess that you have? Like, why you got done with wrestling, finished your wrestling career? Was teaching and coaching always something you wanted to do, you had in the back of your mind? And like, what's your real deep purpose of wanting to do that and spend your time and make a living at it?
So right now I'm just coaching. So yeah, I mean, coaching is my passion, and I've been passionate about, I mean, I'm a son of a coach, and I've just always kind of thought like a coach. I've always empathized with them, and I could tell athletes, we don't always look in the eyes that they are. We kind of look at things selfishly. Why are they doing this? Why are they playing this player?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we only giving the spotlight to this guy? Or, you know, there's a lot of ways we could think selfishly as athletes, but when you look in the mind of a coach, man, it's so hard. And I have a lot of respect for them. All the time they put in, they have families too, and they don't need to put all this time in with other people's kids.
Right.
You know? So I've always had a lot of respect for them, and I just know the knowledge that I can give these kids and stuff that I've learned from my career. And I mean, nothing makes me more passionate about helping other people. You know, even when I was wrestling, I just always realized that too. I'm like, I can't be the best wrestler I could be if I'm not helping my teammates and they're not getting better either. Right. I don't want to just beat up my teammates and not help them get better. So it's funny. Branch told me he thought that was so weird. I was like a week away from my first wrestle off when I first came there to Wyoming. And he said he heard me teaching my partner leg defense. He's like, why is he helping him? He should just shut up and just let him not know and kill him with that in the wrestle off. But I'm like, no, if he's not good enough, then I'm not going to be good enough. So I've just always thought like that, and it's probably just because I was the son of a coach. But I'm like I said, it's the passion for sport, and I'm excited to pass on that knowledge.
Shoot, I think you're a great ambassador, man. I'm not much of it. I don't know too much about the sport. Yeah. I was a baseball guy, you know what I mean, but you make me want to put my son in wrestling. I'm not even kidding you, man.
I don't even have kids, and I want to send my son.
I'm serious. Like I think you're gonna kill it, dude. Seriously, I think you're giving me chills more than probably 5 times already during this podcast by just the way that you think, your mindset, your philosophy, your goals, your visions, your experiences, and all these type of things. So
appreciate it.
Parents, get over to this guy, you know, if you want your kid to, you know, get to another level and stuff like that. But seriously, man, I truly think like you're going to be a great pioneer for the sport.
Thank you.
Because I mean, the sport doesn't get enough love. It really doesn't. And for the athletes that it creates, it needs to get love.
Absolutely.
It's just one of those things. Like I get chills talking about it. Cause like I said, I've been blessed to train wrestlers, you know, ones that have gone to like, I had a girl go to Augsburg and you know, I got these 2 little boys, you know, they're killing the scene and doing these things. And you guys deserve all the attention, the training, the mindsets, the injury, like all this type of stuff. So man, I'm really glad the sport's got somebody like you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Going off that, I want to talk about a quick topic real quick. And this goes back, obviously, like Fresno State lasted a couple seasons and, you know, mismanagement of that program leadership, it's going to fall. We've seen wrestling at different levels, different college programs, cut their programs. What do you think the future of wrestling is, and what needs to happen to, like Zach said, give wrestling the credit it deserves? I think it's going to be people like you getting out of wrestling and continuing to put back into the sport. But where's wrestling at right now, since you just kind of got done, you know, wrestling in college, and where does it need to go in order to continue to grow?
Yeah. So I'm never going to be a poor us guy. Like I said, just don't have that victim mentality and, oh man, we get our programs cut, poor us. Yeah, there is Title IX. Yeah, there is a lot of things that are against us. But at the end of the day, the only one that's going to help you or us is you. We got to support it. We got to be passionate about it. Right. I'm not going to wait for someone else to support our dreams. We got to support each other. So it's funny. I know a lot of retired wrestlers or a lot of ex-wrestlers, ex-fighter, a lot of people who do, I love the sport. And then I'm excited. Oh, cool. Someone else likes sport. Let's start talking about it. Oh, I don't know any of the guys anymore. I don't really follow it that much anymore. I'm like, why? Oh, once my career's over, it's just hard to think about, you know, it's like, I'm like, dude, you got to support the sport, because who is? You got to know the guys. You got to watch the college duels. You got to be up to date with it. So it's funny because who's the common, you know, you have your common UFC fan, you know, they call them, what do they call them? Your casuals. Right. Your casual UFC fan, they started watching after Conor, right? We don't have our Conor McGregor yet, really. So it's like, you're not going to have a bunch of casuals. The people who are going to support their sport, the people who they have a kid in it or they've been in it. Right. And if they're not supporting it, there are no casuals. So we got to do a better job of supporting our sport and getting our passion out there about it. And it just because it's not your kid wrestling, we got to watch. We got to take our kids to go. We got Cal State Bakersfield up. That's program not supported enough. Yeah, we lost Fresno. We need to go get butts in the seat and go support them. So like I said, I'm not going to be a poor victim guy. We need to do better in sport. Yeah, support it.
I think,
100%.
yeah, and I think what you are about to do and what you already are doing is definitely going to be a good funnel for that.
Yep, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because again, like you said, it starts with individuals like you and the way that you want to approach it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like it's contagious.
Yeah.
You get around somebody like you, and then you put 3 more people around you like that.
Yep.
Dude, you could take over the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not trying to be in a room full of people who just want to talk. You're trying to be in a room of, with people that want to walk with you after they have the conversation.
Absolutely.
So, I think it's just a matter of time for you.
Yeah.
And the vision and where you want to take it. So, yeah, man. I mean, so to go back to social media, do you have an Instagram?
Yep.
Do you have a business page? Do you have anything like that? Where
we're just going with Instagram right now. I thought about getting a website right now. I'm like, what would I accomplish with the website? I'm like, everything you could want really is right there on Instagram. They can message me and then they can get my number and we could just schedule it. I try to keep it simple. And easy.
No Twitter or Facebook.
Like I said, I'm going at the rate, not yet. Like I said, I'm trying to go at the rate where I can keep up with. I don't want to stretch myself so thin and have all these different things to keep up with, and I'm not keeping up with even one. So, like I said, I try to kill it with one thing first, and then next,
move
and then
on
next.
to the next.
That's how I approach it.
Cool. So, if people want to get a hold of you, they could look through your Instagram.
Yep, Wright Wrestling Academy on Instagram.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. One last thing is obviously you've accomplished a lot and you're just getting started. What's the vision? What's the goal? What's kind of your future look like? Like where do you want to be sitting in 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah. Like I said, I want this to be a situation where people, all these surrounding areas that do wrestle, they're like, we got to get our kid here. If he's going to be any good, he's got to be in that Wright Wrestling Academy room. Yeah, that's where the best kids are. That's where the best coaching is. I want people making the life adjustments. I know it'll be a drive and sacrifices, but I've been there. If you want to be good, you got to make sacrifices. And hopefully I'm one of those, they realize like we got to be in that room and coach by them. So I'm hoping it's just a big hub for right now. Like I said, we have K through 8, only about 15-ish kids in there. Hopefully, like I said, we're not even wrestling yet. We have a lot of kids that play other sports too. So once it's football season, I want that room packed with around 50-ish, youth kids. And then hopefully it's a point where it's a big high school room. Right now it's just, the high school is a little tough because on season for high school isn't until off season once they're done with their program.
Right.
But I think that's going to be a great big thing this year. We're going to start because I know a lot of these high schools, they don't want to, these coaches have families. They don't want to do the off season. They go from, wrestling season, long season, November to March. It's through the holidays.
Right.
They sacrifice a lot. So when it hits the off season and these guys want to go to Fargo and all these off season tournaments, they're like, I'm burnt out. You go ahead and do it on your own. And these, I know a lot of kids personally I already work with, and they get mad. Their coaches aren't doing anything. Hey man, I get it, but that's what I'm here for.
Right. You're here to fill that gap.
Let's do it. I'll go with you. I don't have family now. Let's go to Super 32. We're going in October. I'm going in October with a few high schoolers. So I'm here to train them. Let's do it right. Let's do the freestyle. Let's hit it. Let's have a hard off season.
Yeah. And so it's like working with all those high school coaches, making those connections and building those relationships.
Yep. Right. Absolutely. And then that's the next step. I mean, I'll have to really get started this offseason, but I hope I can get them to trust me. Like, I'm not trying to steal anyone's kid, trying to tell them what high school to go to. It's like, I'm here as a resource and it's actually to help all these guys. It is a grind to run a program year round. Like, it's hard.
Because sometimes it is its own worst enemy because you do clubs and it starts, people get very protective.
Political and things like that.
And I'm trying to keep it not like that. And that's why I love what I'm doing because I'm able to work with everybody.
Yeah. You minimize that whenever you just have genuine good intentions, but it's still going to happen.
Oh yeah.
Because you can't control how people are going to react and how they're going to feel, you know what I mean? But you know what's inside you, you know what you're offering and things like that. You just hope everybody else can recognize it at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, anything else?
No, man. I mean, talking about sacrifice. Thank you for making the sacrifice to come down and see us, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thanks for, I know you were just training before you came, so thanks for taking the time to come down over here with us. And it's been fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's
and
a
again,
fun interview.
People, if you want to find him, Jacob Wright Academy, right?
Wright Wrestling Academy.
Right, Jacob.
Just Wright Wrestling Academy.
Right there. If you guys want to look into it for your kids, go find him.
It's like the perfect twist on words too. Like your last name's Wright, but it's right. Yeah. Did you do that on purpose?
Kinda, yeah.
It just worked. It just kind of falls in your lap, right?
It just blended perfectly.
I love it. It's catchy. It's gonna, it's gonna catch on.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, man.
Thanks, Jacob.
Appreciate it. Yep.
All right, appreciate it.